You don't need to try. You can just be. Hi, I'm Niiamahashong, leader of the Trailblazer Frontier. And these were the exact words that were said to me as I was preparing for a leadership experience last year. And in this occasion, as a group of leaders, we were going to an intensive experience where we would be creating an energetic support and also logistical support and leadership support for a group of 150 individuals who would come on a transformation experience. And as part of our training, we were taken down our own path of transformation. And we were offered an opportunity for a breakthrough. And the team spent some time thinking about each individual person on that team. And the team leaders spent time thinking about each individual person. And they offered something unique. I've never experienced it. They observed us over the few weeks, and then they shared something from that they had seen. I call it an outsight. It isn't advice, and it isn't an insight. It's an outsight because it's coming from outside of me. But their outsight, one person in particular, came on and she said, right now, you don't need to try. You can just be. You can let go of having to try at all. And instead, just be. Now, I remember this because it was in October of 2018. And I remember that because I heard the words and it shook me in my core. And I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know how to just be. I'd been trying, and I didn't even realize how much I was trying. But it had become apparent to me through our conversations how much I was still waiting for permission to bring my vision to life, how much I was still seeking approval from others through the way that I shared my content, shared my message, shared my thought leadership. And there was an element of it that was still trapped behind some version of who I thought I needed to be in order to actually be seen, heard, received, and accepted. As I let out that sigh, I can feel myself being more grounded in this conversation. And it gives me a chance to check in this very moment. Am I trying or am I being? I feel more connected with just being with you now. So you don't need to try. You can just be. I made a little Yoda image saying that, there is no try. There is just be. And over the next year, that was something that I carried with me. And it's not something that felt heavy, but it was an opportunity to just remind myself of how I am being in the world. Not just what I am doing, but how I am being. And ultimately, I'll be honest, I wish I can come out and say, like, I showed up and I was just like, yep, she said it to me. I got it. I just started being, and I let go and I relaxed. It wasn't there. In fact, I was still looking for the signs that, how do I say it? That it was time, that I was ready, that it was my time to go out and really make the impact that I wanted to. And what occurred to me was that I was looking behind me. No, what occurred to me was I was looking in front of me. I was looking ahead to try and find some kind of finish line. But what I didn't realize was that the finish line was already behind me. I had been there and done that. And I think this really came to a culmination at the beginning of this year. The previous year had ended, I was taking a look at where the business was headed. And I was thinking to myself, cash flow has been drying up. If this ends up being the case and I have to end the business here, how would I feel about it? And yeah, it's not easy for me to share this, but I'm happy that I am. There was one word that came to mind, and the word was regret. And it was regret not because the business wasn't successful, or not because it wouldn't have been successful, but not because I feel like I had wasted time, but it was because the true vision of what I wanted to bring out to the life, the true reason I decided to be an entrepreneur, the true calling that I felt moved to, that had me change my entire life. I hadn't really given myself the chance to put that out into the world. That vision included having group conversations, community conversations, and bringing together a truly inclusive and empowered world. And doing it by getting people who are different minded but like hearted into the same room and having conversations that they never would have had before in a powerful, authentic, and world changing way, simply because we were having the conversation and giving us a chance to look at diversity and inclusion from a completely different lens. At the beginning of this year, I stepped more fully into that vision. And I found myself offering more group programs. You got a chance to join the Trailblazer Tribe, where we have conversations on a weekly basis and continue to meet as a community to come and take on a lot of these topics. I say that right now, a lot of these topics, and I know that by the time you watch this, these topics will be in play, but I have to call myself out for what's happening in this moment. In this moment, I've brought together a group of people, but we haven't tackled the hard topics yet. We're still at a place where we haven't really brought in diversity and inclusion from a different perspective. But we're playing the game, and I'm on my journey. And what I feel more than anything else is that I've started to embrace that the finish line's behind me. And going forward, there's no one that can actually give me any approval to do what it is that I want to do. And there's no real path that's been laid out before me. Instead, every step I take, figuring out what does a session need to look like, figuring out how do I invite people to it, and actually giving myself a chance to bring this vision to life, however it starts to manifest through me. That, my friends, is a journey that I'm on right now. And it's a journey that I alone can take in terms of its creation, but I can be supported by others along the way. And those others can help me fill out my vision and help me figure out more of what it is that I'm trying to bring to life, so that I show up for you and for others. Stop trying to be what I think needs to be out there and simply just be. Today, I get a chance to serve someone who is one of those people for me, someone who can be in a room with me, hear my vision, challenge my vision, and challenge me to continue to step into all of who I am without having to try and be anything other than just being me. And my friends, I'm a powerful person as it is. So I'm happy to have a conversation right now with another powerful individual, Tony Martinetti. Tony, I am thrilled that we get this chance to spend time together here. And I am grateful that you're giving me an opportunity to serve you through this forum. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great now.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled to be here with you.
Thank you, Tony. Let's bring you into this room here. I'm going to go and explore your journey up until this point, but I'll be curious for you. What, if anything, struck you? And there doesn't have to be anything that came of this, but what, if anything, struck you from anything I've said thus far?
Well, first and foremost, just hearing that, that just being, that is something that we all struggle with. It's so hard to just be. And I feel that a lot. It's something that I'm working on. Never quite perfect, but leaning into every day.
Cool. Cool. So we're gonna play here today, Tony. We're gonna play, and let us both practice just being here, and whatever that means for us. Like, I mean, I realized, I was like, oh, I heard that back in September, October of 2018, and I'm still on this path, But
yeah,
can I invite both of us that if we ever find ourselves trying in this conversation, that we just call ourselves out verbally or mentally, and just like realign and get back to where we really need to be, which is just in deep connection with each other.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, I'm with you. I'm ready to play.
All right, cool. So let's see how you have been playing. I like to start this off by just getting a chance to hear a bit of your journey here. Really interested in like the highlight reel, like, you know, Tony, when people might see you on the street, or if they looked at your LinkedIn, or if they like went through and saw like your greatest accomplishments, what is it that they might see on the outside?
Yeah, so let me start with I'm not going to give you an exhaustive story, but I think it's helpful to give a little background as to what brought me to coaching and then what kind of coaching I'm doing.
Mhm.
So I spent about 20 some odd years in biotech, on the finance and strategy side of biotech in the Massachusetts, Boston area, and worked with some really great companies and eventually started my own company, helping to consult with small to mid-sized biotech companies, helping them raise money, helping them set up their shops. Great, fulfilling work. At the end of the day, people on the outside would see a picture of someone who's really successful, has made a great path for himself. But on the inside, I was feeling a little empty, not feeling like I was doing the work I was meant to do on the planet. Often asking myself the question of, is this really all there is? I wanted more out of life, more fulfillment. And eventually, through a number of different things that have led me this path, I decided that coaching was something that really checked a lot of the boxes that I wanted to accomplish in my
Tony,
life.
can I ask you really quickly here? Thank you. Like I
Sure.
might just interject as we go on, but you said through a number of different things, just to help make this
Yes.
real for us, right? Can you take us to like one of those
Yeah.
things, one thing there? Just like
Sure.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. So I guess I'll just put it out there. I was diagnosed with depression, and I ended up seeing, a therapist. Tried everything under the sun. Probably read every self-help book at the time, which there were quite a lot, as you can imagine. And also, was basically burnt out. So there's this element of like, I hit the bottom, and the only way I could go is up. So I started to kind of slowly but surely, get myself out of this bottom rung. It was impacting my health, my family, everything in my life. So I started to dig out, and as I dug out, I found that there's ways to live life different than I was, and it wasn't about getting to the next rung of the ladder or about money. It was about finding fulfillment in life and finding ways to do things with my unique gift and finding that unique gift and serving people in that way. And so that's really what led me to coaching. So I'm glad you prod it a little further, because that
Yeah, I'm glad I did too. There's an element of this here because that's like that is the story here. That is what I'm getting about you, if I'm getting this right here, is that you were working in a field that few other people have ever even really had any kind of expertise in at all, let alone to be able to create a successful business as an entrepreneur, consultant to these biotech companies
Mhm.
and beyond. And on one end, it looked like you were flying high, and but on internally, you were feeling like you were at the bottom rung, like the depths of yourself, right?
Absolutely.
And so I it's like, how do I say it? There are a number of different things that are coming on, but I feel like this is part of the story that really I'm curious. Here goes what I'm not saying. I'm curious what right now. I'm curious about like what made you decide to I'm gonna let the question go. I know the curiosity is there. We'll see
Yeah.
if it comes to serve in this conversation. I think I just need a
Mhm.
little bit more context for what will be really serving to you versus what is just like in my curiosity right now. Okay.
Yeah. That's fine.
All right. Cool. So you were going and you decided you were gonna climb out up this ladder. I actually just like leave that behind and then go down the path of coaching
Yeah.
for you. All right. You've talked a little bit about your magic here. And you talked about like, tell me a little bit more about what it is that that really brings you joy when it comes to the work you're doing now. And actually, your word was fulfillment. So tell me more about what brings you fulfillment right now.
Yeah. And so as you can imagine, the things that you most need in life and the tools that you use to get out of your hole become your tools. Your weakness are your strengths. And so I started to find ways to find fulfillment in my life and get out of burnout. And what I turned around and said, I want to make sure that I can serve the people who are like me in similar places in the tech industry, not just biotech, to help them say, look, there's more to life than sitting there struggling and, trying to just move up the ladder and feeling a little empty inside. So what I'm doing now is working with those leaders to help them design a more fulfilling life that will allow them to have more brilliance and inspiration in their life. And the process is, there's
Yeah,
a framework to it.
I think we can leave the process out, because I love the idea that, like, as long as for your people, like, you can sprinkle fairy dust at them, or, like, take them on trips, like whatever it is, like, that's less important than knowing that they can get the outcomes that it is that they're looking for. I find myself curious in this moment. I think it will serve both of us here. You talk about burnout, and I hear that. And it actually ends up serving like a very large array of different activities there. So I would be curious, just really quickly, what's your flavor of burnout? What is it like? What does burnout look like for you? So on and so forth. What's your flavor with it?
Yeah, my flavor of burnout was more self-imposed, I believe, than it was a burnout that was because of the environment. You have sometimes when you have toxic leadership, or the environment imposes on you a situation that makes you burn out, that is bad, obviously, because it's out of your
Tony, I'm going to
control.
pause you really quickly,
Yeah, sure.
because this is something that I'm going to invite you in here. I realize with us here,
Yeah,
if you can you tell me about this here, about you, because I'm getting lost in the, like, when I say you, I
no
mean
worries.
Tony. I'm getting lost in the generality of it all,
Yeah,
and what I really want to do is feel you, and I also
yeah,
want to make sure that if there's any trailblazer out there that knows that I want to give them a chance to be able to experience you in your heart right here,
yeah,
and to understand what is really going on, because there are a lot of people out there who serve people who've gone through burnout and help them live more
yeah,
fulfilling lives. Like, that's just like one subset of coach, but you're more than that. And I really want to just
yeah.
make sure that we slow down and give us a chance to get to it. I get it intellectually. I get it from that other part. I'm here to understand you and why you do this here.
Well, I'm going to give you that answer right now. And in fact, just by what I was just showing you, just gives you an example of where my burnout comes from. It comes from me moving fast, moving at a pace beyond the norm. I was in this space of being addicted to doing and staying in action, and it caused me to ignore my feelings, ignore my emotions, and be in this operating like a machine to create what my future was seemingly to be more, do more, and continue to move in action at the detriment of my health, my family, and my real sole purpose. So it was a covering for what was feelings. So instead, the emotions were just gone away.
Thank you. I'm beginning to feel you more in this conversation here. And so let's
Yeah,
let's leave space. Actually, not even just leave space. Let's make it a point here to play in the realm of the feelings and the emotions. And you've mentioned your soul's purpose a few times in this conversation. That's been something that has been very, very front of mind for me, and actually not even front of mind, just within my being. I talked to you earlier about like how today my morning routine was a little bit off here.
Yes.
And part of my morning routine is really just to reconnecting with my soul's purpose, because I wake up every
Mm.
morning with the fears of like just the everyday life.
Mm.
And I say, like, before my feet hit the ground, like I've already like chastised myself for 17 different things that I that I haven't done, and I'm just like getting out of bed, you know.
Yeah.
So let's spend this. I'm really feeling that we can have a higher purpose conversation
Yeah.
by slowing things down in this moment and making sure neither of us spend our time in our head space, and instead
Mm.
spend our time in our heart and our soul space. Are you good
Yeah.
with that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's where the magic happens.
Yeah. So if you had to right now, tell me a little bit. You've talked about your soul's purpose a few times
Mm.
here, right? Why are you here on this earth? Let me ask that question.
Yeah. Why am I here on this earth? I'm here to create a world where people feel fulfilled, where they come to work and they feel as though they're safe and they're able to create the work that they're meant to do. And they're able to be with their families, spend time with their loved ones, but at the same time, create a situation where everything that's in them is able to come out, and they break open and leave all that they have inside of them in the world.
Hmm.
When they die empty. And what that means to me is, it sounds dire, but that everyone fulfills their journey and their mission as to what they were sent on the earth for.
So Tony, let's do this here. Let's you and I play. Like I'm like we this is a coaching conversation where I really got to be in service here. I know that my purpose in life is to champion the leaders who are shaping the next era of humanity. And so, and when I hear what you're describing there, I'm like, okay, like you're one of my people. So let me champion you. Tony, if we were going to look at something today, I found out there are a few different things. You haven't really spent time with me in the coaching environment, so I want to just create a few agreements with you before we go any
Yeah,
further. Is that okay?
yeah, absolutely.
All right. So the first one is that I'm going to hide nothing and hold nothing back. Are you good with that?
Yes.
All right. You can say yes or no to any of these things. It's totally fine. We can just find whatever we need to make it work. All right.
I'm with you.
The second one is that I'm here to serve you and not please you. Are you good with that?
Absolutely.
All right. The third one, this one, So I have a track record of having life-changing conversations. And at this point in my life, I refuse to have anything less than that. But I feel
Mhm.
like there's something beyond that now that we really should be bringing into this conversation. So beyond life-changing, I want to have my new standard for conversation is a world-changing conversation. I have
Mhm.
no idea how it will happen, and I'm not tied to it to us leaving here knowing exactly how that took place. But are you open to the possibility of this conversation being a world-changing conversation?
Absolutely. It feels amazing.
Okay. The fourth thing here is that I'm not here to keep you safe. I'm not here to keep you safe. I'm not here to keep you small, and I'm not here to turn you down. This is a conversation where we got to really turn you up, turn the volume up on you, and allow you to step out of your safety zone, out of your comfort zone, into the person that you were meant to be, into fulfilling your soul's purpose here. Are you willing to be comfortable playing outside of your comfort zone today?
Hell yes.
All right, let's play then. Right.
Mhm.
So Tony, world changing is the standard that we have for this conversation. That's the agreement that we just made here. Right. Taking, like, if you're really going to look at what it is that you see yourself here to do on this earth, and we were going to have a world changing conversation, what would we need to talk about today to open that possibility?
Yeah. For me to have that type of conversation, it's really to get at the core of what people want in their lives, to inspire them to think at that real deep, deep, deep place. And if it's in service of where I am, it's really to go deeper for where that purpose comes from. Where does that arise in me? Why do I believe the things I believe? And by probing there for me, maybe it will resonate with you or others.
All right, so I'm going to pause before we go forward. So I'm not going to keep you safe here, and you agree to that.
Yeah.
I was with you until the very end, right?
Yeah.
Until the end, where like my invitation to you on this year is to really be selfish, right?
Yes. Oh yes. Yeah.
And because what happens is that right now I was like, okay, I've been curious as to the why behind it all, but I'm not sure if it's in service of you or if in service of me in this case here. If you're going to be truly selfish in this moment, right, without having to, it could be exactly what you asked, but I want to make sure that we're asking it from a place that's actually powerful for you in this time here. When you get out of here, you can put your attention back out onto the world. But like right now, there's just you and I, and we have to do the work that we need to do is too important to be caught in multiple places.
Yeah. No, I feel you. I feel you. That's something that I'm always in that service mode where I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, if this is coming up for me, then it is in service of others. But in reality, I need to be selfish, and I agree. I need to be thinking about, bringing that up for me so that I can feel as though
You're still doing it, by the way, right now. You're still doing it. You already have the insight, and you're like, I have to share this out there. I get it. We're there.
I don't have the insight, but I'm trying to get the inside out, meaning I don't know where that deep cause is of my reason for doing what I do.
Cool. Thank you, Tony. And it's interesting for me because I think I feel like I'm like there's a really powerful man in front of me here that that has work to get done. Right. Yeah. I want to make sure that I want to make sure that you and I don't tiptoe around what's really important, so today might feel like a higher flame conversation for me, but I think it's because I'm just that dedicated to being able to serve you. I'm like, if we leave this conversation and like, I said it, so I want to be with that. You good with that?
Good.
All right, cool. Tell me about your proudest moment.
Proudest moment. I'm gonna go with one of my proudest moments. When I was working in, this is probably one of my proudest moments. I worked at a company called Vertex, and we worked on a drug for a rare disease drug for cystic fibrosis. And in my particular role, I was on the finance side, but I was able to take on a project where I was able to look at ways to ensure that patients who couldn't afford drug would get access to medication for free if they needed to. I worked on the project, pretty much night and day until I figured out a way to make it work, got it through all the channels. And when I was able to get that done, I presented it, and it was accepted, and it's now gone on to become a really successful program. And to me, being able to know that there's people out there who are getting access to this drug who would not have had access is something that's so really rewarding. So rewarding to me to know that I'm making that was an impact I could make, and that's something that I think secretly I've been really wanting is more and more impact in life, and that's kind of, I guess, really, I would say maybe one of the impacts. The reasons why I wanted to be a coach is become more impactful.
Can I ask you, Tony, what was impactful about that to you? Like, thank you. It's what was impactful? And the thing about this year is I'm going to keep going deeper with you to you. Yeah. Take yourself to that moment. What was going on inside that really impacted you?
I mean, it may be a bit selfish, but there's an element of like feeling like it was a personal accomplishment, something that I did that I was able to take control of and feel like a direct impact on people. Whereas in prior situations, I might have had like a associative impact. And I think that was where a lot of the challenges that I was having is I wanted to make more impact, and I was still very impatient to make more impact in life. I think that was where that was showing up most of all, at least at that point in my career. It was important for me to see that one little thing I could do could have a ripple effect on people throughout the world. That's life-changing and world-changing.
Tell me more about the impatience there.
Well, first and foremost, the inpatients there are mostly children, and they, would be through a lifetime of being on beds, being on having compression suits, lots of medication that would just like not really serve them in terms of treating the disease. It would just be daily medication to kind of treat bacterial infections or other types of things they go through. The cost of being a CF patient, cystic fibrosis patient, is astronomical. And the outcome is that they usually don't live to be an adult. Now, there are patients who are living to be adults, which is truly amazing. So.
Let me check in with you really quickly here.
Mm.
Now there are children who are living to be adults. How does that make you feel to be able to say that?
It's amazing. It truly is. To me.
What feeling in particular are you feeling right now? I want to do is not be in the head of this all. I want to just act like we can't answer your deeper questions until we go deeper. So tell me about the emotion that you're feeling in this moment.
Well, it's inspiration. It's inspired. I feel full of joy that, there's so much that we as a society have been able to do by working together and creating things that we collectively have been able to do by bringing smart minds together. And it's not really just one person working alone. It's really by building off of the ideas of other people and, seeing through that. So I know from an emotional perspective, it really is that joy and inspiration that just kind of makes me feel so good. But ultimately, it's about seeing that overwhelming, feeling of like just being part of this amazing wheel of life that's building on each other. It's not a wheel; it's more of a pyramid that it just builds on each other, one innovation after another.
Thank you for that there. I'm going to keep exploring. I'm not necessarily sure I know what I'm looking for. I don't know what the necessary path to get there. So you good with that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think your shirt says explore right now. So
it does. Yes.
Yeah, so let's play. Take me back to your childhood here.
Yeah.
Right? Take me back to your childhood and what I'm looking for here, what I'm curious about is what just came to mind when I brought up Take Me Back to Your Childhood?
I immediately thought of being an artist, creating artwork. I used to create these different rooms in like houses where each one of them would have different setups. One would be like maybe an orange room with like different types of orange, I don't know, like textures that were made of like orange peels, or one would be more sharp and like jagged. Different emotions would be kind of portrayed in different rooms. And I would be very detailed with my drawings. A lot of teachers give me awards for the work that I created. So I was an artistic child, very creative. That's what came to mind almost immediately about this, like my childhood as an artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me more. Like, so you had these. You were drawing all these different rooms, and each of these different rooms, you said like they had its own feel. Had like, did you say that they were representing different emotions there? Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about that. That's really interesting to me.
Yeah. I had this element of like being perfect, had this like type A achiever mentality, but also a very fluid and artistic bend. So the things I would create always were well thought out. Um, and they had a lot of creativity behind them, but they were also very structured.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So
Then, like, I'm just gonna just be a little bit here. You were talking about like rooms, right? And I thought that was really interesting there. So, like, was that your particular style of like artistry at the time? Like, you're just like,
yeah,
yeah.
I just I don't know. I eventually had this inkling of becoming an architect,
Mm-hmm.
and I to this day have a passion for architecture, which is something that as I travel around the world, I'm always looking at places that have interesting architecture. Um, just happens to be something I still have a passion for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
This is really interesting stuff, and I will
mm-hmm,
see how it plays out.
mm-hmm,
Um, so tell me about like you were this child who was really detail oriented, really passionate around like um, art as architecture as that grew up, but you're an artist, right?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Like you had mentioned something earlier around when you're talking about the work you did as an adult and the impact that it had there, and just like to be able to see these children be able to grow up into adults, right?
mm,
What part of that child there that was drawing and making all these different rooms and such, the artist part of you, what part of that wasn't able to come along the journey of growing up into an adult with you in this current
yeah, yeah. I think I felt a bit stifled in many ways. Like I always had to fit in, or I had to like, um, I had to kind of like conform to the norm that was in front of me. I always put on that face that made it look like I was, you know, happy to be there and all that, but I always felt as though I was not free and not I was not free. I know that. I know I wasn't free. I wasn't being liberated at that point. Even though, as I said before, I mean, there's an element of like, you know, sure, making money, you know, doing great things, but I wanted to be free like those children who are let go of their disease, you know, to at least seemingly so. So something's coming up for me now. There's something about giving giving them a chance to see a, a better life and giving them some hope that is important.
Tony, let me ask you right here. If this was going to be a conversation that could set you free,
Mm-hmm.
where would we need to go
Yeah.
now?
Yeah. You know, I mean, I'm not sure, but I'm starting to see something that I hadn't seen before just right now around that freedom thing, which I've never really explored too much. And maybe we can dig into that a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Um, let's check that out then. So let's see here. What about freedom right now is really calling to you?
Well, I mean, there's something about being restrained or feeling like I'm holding back that I've wanted to give to other people. And I think I've always been trying to give to other people, but I haven't been giving to myself. And it's not just in the children with, the CF patients, it's also in the people who, even before I became a coach, I was always known as a person to go to for advice or for connections or things like that. And I'm feeling into this element of like, if I couldn't have what I wanted, I was going to make sure other people get what they want. Like I was put on the earth to suffer so that other people could have what they want. And that's not right. And that's not the right mentality. So my freedom's more important. I need to be more important than other people's. It's like the serve versus, no. I was thinking about service versus pleasing. I don't think that's right either.
Yeah, it's more like it's like suffering versus versus what?
Yeah, freedom. I mean, it's what it is. I mean, I think you and I have had this conversation about Buddhism and how I believe a lot in the balance activity, the balance and the Eightfold Path, and about balance is so important. And suffering is not the way to do it. And unfortunately, through most of my life, I did a lot of this internal suffering. And I'm continuing to, even as I heal, I still continue to see those patterns of suffering.
And then let me just ask you here. Thank you for going here and for being in this space here. What has choosing a life of choosing to believe that you're put on this earth to suffer so people can get what they want? What is that? How has that benefited you over the years?
It hasn't. It hasn't. And in fact, it's been quite the opposite. I don't think my head quite understood this because it was thinking like, oh, well, because I'm giving my all and giving everything I can, other people can have a better something, better life, a better whatever. But in reality, if I'm not around or not able to be at my best or to be optimal, then I can't serve. I can't be.
Even that still feels a bit like you at your best and your optimal. It still feels like when I think about that, I'm like it feels like there's an undertone of suffering in there where it's like rather than just allowing yourself to simply be, you have to be at your best. You have to be optimal.
Yeah. And here we come back to that where we began, right? And I said earlier that I still struggle with the being aspect because doing and being is something that is always at odds for me.
Yeah. So let's go back to this here. Like, I'm going to ask this question again in a different way here. You've chosen a life of suffering. I'm using your words here, right?
Yeah.
By using it, but you've chosen that you're here to help people, and the path that you chose was suffering. My question for you is there is some benefit of it. You're a very smart person, like what is the benefit, the gift of choosing to go down the path of suffering for you? What did you get as a result of going down this path?
So now that I think of it, it's actually a lot. I mean, there was a lot of downside for sure, but I've also learned a lot. I've learned a lot of lessons. And because of those lessons, I am who I am today.
So let's slow this down a little bit, right? Because right now we're missing it.
Yeah.
Tell me 3 gifts of choosing the path of suffering. And if you need me
Yeah,
to give examples of things like that, I can do that. But I want to make sure we're.
yeah, yeah,
What did you gain from this year? Like it was, it, this in some way, shape, or form, it kept you safe. In some way, shape, or form, it's helped you to live a life where you've been able to make the impact that you already have. In some way, shape, or form, it's brought you into this conversation with me. There've been some
yeah,
things that have come from choosing this path. So I want to make sure that we understand what it's getting you, so that if we choose any other paths, we can choose. We make sure we don't lose what suffering has given you so far.
absolutely. And so I'll start with one of the most obvious ones, and this is the one that that will come off a little bit weird because you think this is a very positive one, very positive. I would deal with discomfort well. I would get uncomfortable more often than most and deal with that discomfort positively. And now I see that as a real plus. It's allowed me to see that by getting uncomfortable, I'm able to create situations where I learn more, I feel more. So there's one thing. The other thing is being able um, to know the signs and symptoms of when things are going awry. Because I've seen the dark sides of my gifts, and I know now where they kind of can go off the rails. So
One
I
more.
guess
Well, like, yeah.
one.
Why do you think you kept yourself suffering for so long? And like what is that? What's that secret, like,
Yeah,
dopamine that it was giving you?
yeah. And in some ways, it felt as though this was what I had them in my mind, that this was putting it all out there. It was
Tell me what that
me
means.
fulfilling. This was me fulfilling my mission. That I was meant to burn out, and not meaning burnout like as in like I'm burning out, but more like to burn my candle out so that other people could have what they needed. It's not a gift, but that was the thought. But now I see that differently. I see it as you have to stay lit longer so you can you can really get your gift out there. So yeah. I'm sure there's any more insights now that I'm thinking about it, but I'm just seeing that, now this is just the first time it's really come up like this. I mean, if I could add another one, which I'll add right now, is now I can see this in other people too. And that is probably the biggest of all the gifts.
Tell me
Yeah.
more. If this is the biggest of all of them, tell me more. And what I'm not looking to do is hear about it from the head. I want you to close your eyes for a second. Actually, close your eyes as you're talking to me in this part. Don't
Yeah.
look at even at me here. All right. Breathe deep into your heart, because we really, and like connect with yourself, with your purpose, all that there. Like just get to something that's deeper than in this conversation.
Mm.
Why is it that your ability to see suffering in other people now is the greatest gift of all?
Because I can help them to really turn it around and see where they can make their lives better by seeing that suffering is not the answer. That it's that we're collective beings, and we need to be able to help each other out. We have to belong and serve each other together, and not be seen as, oh, I'm a lone martyr, or some person who's supposed to go down so other people can go up. That's not the way it's meant to be. And so when I can see that in someone else, I can help them to reverse that, because I can feel it I can feel the emotions that brings up for people.
What's the emotion that it's bringing up for you right now?
It brings up for me this feeling of like, well, I'm always just a few steps away from where I was. And this element of, I always have to be careful. There's a saying that when you fight monsters, be careful not to become one. And that's how it feels sometimes when you're a coach. Because of the fact.
Who's a coach?
When I'm a coach, because I tend to deal with the emotions that other people have and I can't take them on. But it's hard not to feel what other people feel.
It's harder to feel what you feel.
Yeah. It's hard to feel what I feel. Absolutely. And it's hard not to feel what other people feel too, because we're all part of a connected being.
So, yeah. Okay. So like there's multiple ways to look at that there, right? Take what you need there. Part of the reason why I said it's harder to feel what you feel here is that I get the sense that it's easier for you to connect to that collective being and easier for you to like remove Tony from the picture, you know?
Yeah.
And just be like, well, what, like, I don't need to feel my feelings. You told me this yourself. I don't need to feel my feelings. I can push my feelings away. I can push my emotions away. It's actually a lot easier to go and feel, what are you feeling? What are we feeling? What are they feeling? What am I feeling? No, I'm not going to touch that. You know, in service of everyone else, I'm not even going to be in this part of this here.
Yeah.
I just want to just like make sure that I'm not, that we're not skipping over that. Like,
yeah, no, I mean, you put it very well, and I love the way that you classify it, because it is this element of really having that sense of, you know, separating yourself from others, but also knowing that we're all connected in this one being, but having that space for the person who's in front of you to feel what they're feeling. And I think that's something that is coming up for me now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go with this here. I'm going to stay on this one part here, Tony. Having the space for the person who you are to feel what you're feeling. Throughout this year, you've brought it up a lot of different times around like you being able to actually feel your own feelings.
Yeah.
You can think about your feelings. I know this one myself. Like I can talk about like, I'm feeling sad. I'm not actually feeling sad. I'm talking about a feeling of sadness, but I'm not actually experiencing sadness.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not to say like, I'm bringing this up here so that you can continue to increase your range and your agility and your ability to be with more people by actually allowing room, like, because how do I say it? You are a model for those that you serve, right?
Absolutely.
And I think, and there's a disconnect when it's like, hey, yes, you should go out and feel your feelings. I personally choose not to, but I believe that that you should.
Yes. Yeah. It's, you know, part of that is just realizing that it's not always going to be all front and center. You've got to give you have to lean.
Who has to?
I have to. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Tony, do you have, we're past the top of the hour right now, we're 2 minutes past. Do you have just a few minutes or just some things I want to just kind of play back to you?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So first, let me just acknowledge you for being in this conversation thus far and for going here. What's your biggest insight? If we ended a conversation right here, what's been your biggest insight so far?
Well, the biggest one is just realizing that this element of suffering is there. I really hadn't identified this, and seeing that it's there now gives me this sense of why I'm driven to do what I'm doing. And that's one thing. And then the other thing would be that I'm still struggling with my feelings to really put them into the room. And I want to make sure that I continue to work on that on my journey to being who I am. And lastly, if you don't mind me, is the being and doing. is it's an ongoing and forever journey as well.
Yeah. And that that it's like a dance along the way.
Yes,
As you
I like that.
as you keep like stepping up your game, you'll find that interchange happening a lot.
Yeah.
So then Tony, let me then share with you a few things that I heard here that
Yeah.
Because part of what we're looking here is like, what's your deeper purpose? And I don't like
Mm-hmm.
you will know, and I have a feeling that it keeps evolving. Like I'm finding that my purpose has changed in the last probably 2 months, like in just in terms of like how it's chosen to manifest itself. So one of the things that came up here was, I can feel myself trying to keep you safe and also trying to make myself look like I'm bringing this together in a certain way. So let me just like be in this conversation with you and also be there.
Yeah.
Right? So dude, like what I'm hearing here is that your flavor of burnout is actually suffering.
Mm-hmm.
That's your unique flavor of burnout here. And you know it intimately. And the suffering that you take on is not like is there's a form of this suffering that seems to come up when it's around leadership or serving other people. There's like your suffering comes in when it's like you don't have to be the lone martyr. You don't have to be the person that you've been what I get is you've been the lone martyr in the past. So not only are you alone, but you've also had to sacrifice yourself in service of like the larger good,
Mm-hmm.
right? You actually like you've been the person who's supposed to go down in order to bring other people up.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an element of this here that is actually really like that feels very unique to you. And when I say unique to you, I mean it's your flavor of this here, but it's not isolated. You're not the only one to have it. There are millions of you out there that have this, but it is. If when you said that, it felt really true. What I felt from here, I'm like, oh, so Tony, having been this person himself, has this unique ability to see where people are suffering in their lives, and to be able to see where leaders are out there trying to take on different things, but feeling that in their ability to make a positive impact in the world, they have to be a martyr themselves. They have to be alone themselves. They have to take it all on themselves. They can't have a part they're not a part of that picture.
Mm-hmm.
It's their job to create. They're the ones that are supposed to go down in order to raise other people up. And with all this in there, they've learned in order to do that, they've had to push away their own emotions, push away their own feelings, make everything not about them. And it leads them down the path of being unfulfilled at the same time, and burnout and beyond.
Yeah.
Let me check in with you on that.
Yeah, I mean, that was a perfect summation of what we have covered today, and it really does sum up the feelings in my journey. That was really helpful. I felt it. So, thank you.
Yeah. You said something here that I'm also going to point out for you, just as we wrap up this conversation. You said you feel like you're always just a few steps away from where you were.
Yeah.
And what can I just ask? Like, in what capacity?
Yeah. So there's this element of when imposter syndrome or the I'm not enoughs come up. It feels like it's like a demon just following behind me, and if I slow down or if I stop being in action, this comes back up, or it will rear its head. And so what I need to do, what I'm doing,
before you get to that, what is this? What like how
this depression,
yeah,
the darkness.
the darkness. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really it. I mean, and being an entrepreneur, being a coach, being on your own to build something that's substantial, it's easy to be chased by the darkness
Mhm.
because it's lonely. It's quite an undertaking. And there's people who are doing this all the time. They're constantly feeling that, what's the next thing that's going to come up and get me?
Mhm.
So for me, I have to cope with that by finding ways to be in the state of being, being in a place where I can feel good about myself and what I'm doing in the world, and feel gratitude for who I am. And that's where I keep it bay. The human.
Yeah. There's I can feel the work as you said that it felt heavy to me, like
Yeah.
just yeah, like and
Yeah.
it actually what it felt like was exhausting. It felt like it's like, oh wow, if you ever slow down, if you ever stop, it will catch you,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And there's an element of this here. I don't know depression too much, so I'm not going down this from it. Like take care of yourself as you go through this year. I'm gonna just admit that
Yeah.
but there's an element of me that's wondering again if there was a way that rather than it chasing you, it could be side by side with you, right?
Yeah.
If it could
Mm-hmm.
be an ally, if it could be integrated, and it's like this is also a part of me, nothing I need to run away from,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but it could just be here. For me, that feeling was death. I just really have been a fear of death has been really permeating through me, um,
Mm-hmm.
and it manifests through being alone. I'm like, if I'm alone, then I won't be able to take care of myself, and I'll die. I'll wither away and die. And the
Mm-hmm.
new thing that I'm playing with is not even playing with. It's the declaration that I've made for myself, which is like death is my ally now. It enters every single conversation. I think it's why when we were having this when we were in this conversation, I was like, the bar needs to be set up pretty high because death is here. Death is in this room with me as well. And
Mm-hmm.
I care too much to let this be a standard conversation. If this was the
Yeah.
last conversation you and I were ever going to have, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure that it has the impact that it needs to have, right?
Yeah.
So without going too far, and there's an element here that I just got to call out, like as you were saying through, I'm like, wow, that's just feels really exhausting, you know. And I
Mm.
have to ask myself, I'm like, is this another flavor of the suffering coming up in a different way, right?
Yeah. 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 I mean, that's maybe it's just the another part of the suffering. Maybe it's the core of the suffering, that really has been there all along. It's, the darkness is, right outside of the light, and I'm trying to stay in the light.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think that's really what I'm hoping to continue to be, is in the light. And the more I find ways to cope with that balance, I like your idea about partnering with it, running alongside it. It's the whole concept of having a shadow and understanding your shadows that Freud talks about, and having that as being a way to really embrace it.
yeah, dude. Because you yourself were talking about like your weaknesses earlier and turning your weaknesses into like the things along the way. And
Yeah.
so there's a part here where um, I wouldn't it's odd for me. It feels awkward for me to talk about because I'm like I don't know depression. I don't want to get in. I know that there's different things around that, and so I don't want to. I can feel myself. This is the part that's hard about the agreement of not uh, keeping you safe.
It's okay.
Because
It's okay.
I'm like I don't want to go there, but I'm like at the same time I'm
Mhm.
like I feel like we should, or at least to at least give you the opportunity to be with it as you choose to be with it. So
Mhm.
thank you for being open to it here. Um, Dude, I really want to acknowledge you. Even when
Thank
you're
you.
talking about the CF children, like I'm seeing how you alleviated suffering for them and gave them an
Mm.
opportunity to go forth there. So there's as you explore more of your soul's purpose, your soul's unique purpose here, and your
Yeah.
flavor of it here. Um, I invite you to explore I invite you to explore that path without having to take it on, you
Yeah.
know? And it might be really interesting because you've talked a lot about collaboration in this conversation as well. Like it's come up a
Yeah.
lot. It's been a theme that keeps showing up. It might be really interesting to see what it would be like to find 3 or 4 other lone martyrs out there, people that you've identified as a lone martyr or that may have shared it with you, and bring them into a room so that they can actually collaborate with each other for just a bit.
Yeah. I love that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
That would be a great idea.
All right, Tony. So let's end this conversation. The way I like to end it is just like, is there one practice or one thing you can play with as a result of this conversation that you like to keep going forward?
Yeah. Let me think about that a second here. I mean, I think for the most part, it's about creating some intentions for myself around, I'm not a lone wolf. I'm not a martyr. That I am in collective with other people who are really going on the same path I am. And by being in that place, I don't have to be in the darkness.
Yeah, yeah. I'm seeing now as we're talking, just like the game that the game that you're playing, where it's like how to be a lone wolf, and so it's like let's go back to the collective, so on and so forth. So I can see
Yeah,
this is actually helpful as we continue our conversations, not here today, but as we continue going forward. I'm seeing a bit more of the tension that lies underneath a lot of that there. You know,
yeah.
so just thank you for giving me a chance to see some of that there. And
Mm,
I can
yeah,
be in deeper service of you while we continue on as well.
yeah.
Right.
And thank you so much. This has been, such a powerful time that we spent together, and I appreciate you keeping me on focus. So that's
Yeah.
really good.
I acknowledge you for being able to receive some like singular attention focused on you a little bit here. It's not always easy. So thank you. All right.
Yeah,
All right, Tony. Talk
awesome.
soon.
Thank you.